On behalf of Bangalore Science Collective, I invite you all to the session on women and science. The session is part of a thematic discussion series, Scientific Temper in the Building of a Nation, that we are organizing in observing National Scientific Temper Day and commemorating our beloved um, Comrade Purushottam Kalalbanti, who left us, our founding secretary, who left us an year ago. And NSTD, as you all know, it is marking the martyrdom of Sri Narendra Dabholkar. And we have, in this lecture series, we have two themes. One is on women and science. That discussion will be happening now. And the other one is on workers and science, where we will have Dr. Vivek Montero and Ken Umesh and Sabyasachi Chatterjee speaking. So in this session, we have Professor Indumati, Advocate Manisha Mahajan, and Dr. Vani VC with us. And a little brief bio about us, like Bangalore Science Collective. We are a people science movement based in Bangalore. We have been doing programs on on popularization of science over the years, and also doing programs on fighting NEP, basically on fighting monopolization of science and technology. So that's what we have been doing over the past 2-3 years. And about our speakers today, obviously our moderator would be telling us more. I would just introduce to you, all of you, our moderator, Dr. Vani VC. Dr. Vani VC works at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore as a principal research scientist. She studied at IISc and she's working there now. And she's a physicist by training. And she's been working on popularization of science and women's education over the past many years. And we're happy to have you, ma'am, here. Without further ado, I would hand over to you. Dr. Vani VC.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. So the first thing, I welcome everyone, the speakers and the audience to today's gathering. Let me now introduce the speakers. We have two speakers, Dr. Indumati and Dr. Manisha Mahajan. Now, let me tell you very briefly about what I have found out about the speakers. Dr. Indumati works in the Institute of Mathematical Sciences based in Chennai. She did a PhD there. Then she worked in various places in India and abroad. And she has been connected with the neutrino project right from the beginning. And she is a particle physicist. And she is also a member of the Tamil Nadu Science Forum. And she is the editor of the bi-monthly Jantan Mantar. Welcome, madam. We want to hear you. Next, let me introduce the speaker, Manisha Mahajan. She is a lawyer based in Pune and is also an activist. She has been working closely with the Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti, and she has represented India in many places, many conferences. I mean, India and the Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti, and also in Singapore. She works mainly on women's issues as a lawyer. She works on the legal problems and also on domestic problems. Welcome both of you, madam. Our first speaker is Dr. Indumati, to be followed by Madam Manisha Mahajan. Now let me give a brief outline of the timing, the way we have divided. Each speaker gets about 30 minutes and the speakers will be one after another. And I request all the audience, please ask all your questions at the end of both the talks. and we'll have a question and answer session after that, after which I'll just try to summarize whatever I have understood from the talk, and then we'll conclude the session. Dr. Indumati, welcome, madam. Over to you. Dr. Indumati?
Ma'am, you are in mute actually. You have to unmute.
I'm still okay. Sorry, I'm still in mute. I'm really sorry about this. I said good evening. I thank Ms. Shan and the Bangalore Science Collective for inviting me to give this talk on the occasion of Women and Science, Scientific Temper in the Building of the Nation, a day after the Scientific Temper Day of August 21st. So I want to, I've been asked to talk about my work with the Tamil Nadu Science Forum, which I've been a member of for almost 30 years now, as well as some aspects about women in science, since I'm also a practicing scientist. I thought I'll just jot down a few points so that I have something to look at while I'm talking, because it's not easy for me to talk without, a set of things, points, because that's how I give my lectures. So I have actually a write-up with me. So as I said, I'll talk a little bit about Tamil Nadu Science Forum and women in science. But from there, I actually want to go to science in everyday society and the relationship of science and society, especially in the modern day world. I also apologize. I would have loved to know who the audience is. I have some words of, quotes, wisdom, especially for young women in the audience. I am sure that there are many of them there. And something that I have understood myself, I would like to convey to the women in the audience. So let me start with, as I said, it's a very big topic, so I am not going to cover all of it. So I just decided to take one aspect of the work that, so Tamil Nadu Science Forum is a voluntary organization, part of the All India People's Science Network, and involved in science popularization and various other aspects of science in everyday life. And one of the movements I want to highlight that was a very successful movement about almost 30 years ago was what is called the Arivuli Iyakam program, or the adult literacy program, that was started in Chennai and then continued across almost all of Tamil Nadu. As I said, it started out in the late 1980s. It was an extremely successful program that was by initial exposure to the public at large. It was not really science so much as literacy. And the program had two components. One was to actually make a survey of the kind of literacy rates in a certain region, and then to organize the actual teaching. And at the end of this program, it was tens of lakhs of people who were actually registered as part of this program. It was a very, very huge program. And as I said, I had a small part or role in this at that time. And I want to really highlight part of the survey that we did at that time, and about women, especially in rural areas. The concept of what learning or education means. I think that across Tamil Nadu, and as I said, I worked essentially extensively in Tamil Nadu, across Tamil Nadu, this concept of learning always meaning book learning. So if I haven't gone to school, I have no learning. That has always been a feeling that especially women have. But they are sitting on, I'm highlighting here the three main treasures: a knowledge of very, very complex cooking and recipes, handed down from grandmother to granddaughter over many, many generations. Nowadays, I live in a city. It's very common to just pick up packets and packets of different kinds of masalas, whether it's from Kashmir or Kanyakumari, and just cook, right? You don't know what goes into them. But these women have some incredible knowledge that they don't think or value as knowledge. Similarly, their knowledge of herbs, kashayam, I don't know what it is in any other language in English, but their knowledge of local medicine, Indian medicine, to treat children with coughs, colds, and maybe I'll make a remark about that and COVID later. And I think the other thing that is truly amazing for me is the commitment to their children's education. All the women were so keen, and if you 90% of women, if you ask them, why are you in this adult education class? And they say that this is one way I feel I can help my child who is going to school. And when the child goes to school and gets an education, she will be better off than I am. This is not an answer we got from many men. In fact, I don't think I heard any man talk about it. I'm not saying that I'm putting down the man over here, but this is the way our women across Tamil Nadu actually saw their role in society, saw the way that education played a role in their lives. And this is something that is really remarkable, because women who had no contact with each other across several districts all raised this point as very important thing. And on the other hand, as I said, they did not understand or realize the value of their own knowledge or learning. They lacked independent judgment. Of course, as across all of India, they had no independence in decision making. Decision making was mostly left to the man, and they had always a male as the head of the family was the norm. And some of these things, while when you give education or literacy to the woman, especially the woman who came out in large numbers for our program, it also transformed these aspects of their lives. And that, you know, it was an unintended thing. We were only concentrating on education, but as a consequence, a lot of these changes happened. And in fact, the literacy program actually expanded into so many other groups, including a women's group, a women's self-help group, and many other aspects of society-related problems that were, you know, that women themselves spontaneously came forward to look at and try to solve on their own without looking for outsiders or government interventions to help them. So this is, as I said, one aspect of the Tamil Nadu Science movement that I'm a part of. As Dr. Vani pointed out, I'm the editor of a children's science magazine called Jantar Mantar, which is actually aimed for, as it says, for children. There are also similar ones in Tamil, which are also aimed at rural children. Okay, now I come to women in science. So that was a little bit of digression, because I wanted to talk about Tamil Nadu Science Forum. So women in science, I will talk about the Indian context. I think some things are very well known, so I don't want to highlight them again. For example, there are many women in science. In fact, there are groups now, there are media people who have actually highlighted the role of many Indian women across all the sciences and engineering divisions, highlighting their work and giving them a more global exposure. However, I find that there are very few who are in positions of power. This is something that is, I think, very, very common, not just in the sciences, across, I think, all areas of life. However, I think in science especially, the distribution is very uneven. It depends on the subject. You will see very, very few women in maths. You will see much more in biology. But I think it remains true. Okay, it remains true that I think somebody needs to mute their mic. Yeah, okay. Sorry, let me continue. As I said, the distribution is very uneven depending on the subject. However, even fields where there are many women in that field, I do not see that they are in positions of power. In fact, if you look at the people who are maybe, you know, heading a research institution or university, I think you'll probably count just one or two women who have been vice chancellors ever, and across, whether at present or in the past. And the number is very disproportionate compared to the number of women who are actually in science. However, there is a different issue over here, and that is the issue about how is a woman perceived in scientific institutions. And I think that this is a very, very classic description. Either the woman, you know, is very successful and she's considered to be aggressive, or you know, she is very meek and docile, and then, you know, she listens to her male peers, and then, you know, people get along with her very well. She's absolutely fine, and there is no problem with her. So this fear of successful women is common. I think things have not changed between when I started research and now. However, I do feel that things are somewhat better. At least my personal experience is that things are a lot better in India than in many places in Europe where I have worked. Okay. However, there is one thing which is very unique to India, and this has very badly impacted the continuation of women in the science field, and that is actually the impact of India's social norms on women. The reason is this. I think this is a problem for women across all fields. But in research, there is nothing like a 9-to-5 job. You have times when you're very busy, working very hard. You bring your work home. You're also working on your research problem at home. And if you're an experimentalist, then you go back to the lab and you're working there. However, however much over the years, Indian society has encouraged women to go out and work or go out and go into higher studies, including research. They still expect women to bear the burden of the family. So once the studies have shown that women in science, after finishing BSc, many of them drop out to get married. After finishing MSc, even more drop out to get married. And after PhD, they cite the reasons that if I delay having a child now, then it will be too late. My biological clock is ticking down, and so they are unable to stay with the rest of the group, and they drop out of research work. The Indian government is actually having certain focused projects which allow for women with a break due to childbirth, etc., to come back into research. But research is extremely unforgiving, because once you have taken a break of a year or two, to actually stay with the field, to find out what has happened in the field, and then to get back into it and then be competitive becomes extremely difficult. So I think that this is a problem in Indian science, that if you look at the women who have been successful in science, you will find all the stories very alike. Either they are not married, or they marry very late, or they don't have children, or if they have children, they're not able to actually have a very successful career. And this is something that is extremely difficult to solve. And however much you may be sympathetic, it is something that I see. It's such a sad thing. You see this the woman coming very enthusiastically for a research project to do a PhD in science, and then by the end of it, all the pressures of society, of the parents, getting her down, and she's not able to perform the way she could or she should have. And these are very difficult problems to solve. However, as I said, these are not restricted only to science alone. So I would actually like to move on to, I think, the impact of science in everyday society. I think that maybe Ms. Manisha will talk more about it. I will raise a few issues which are explicitly related to science or things that I have experienced myself. So this is something that is so common that I just put it there because it's there. I'm not going to talk about it. I think superstition is something that we are all trying desperately to overcome. And I don't think we have been very successful. And this meeting is a part of that attempt. So, however, there is a certain thing that has happened in modern life, which is that today's technology is extremely complex. The way I'm talking to you online, all of you are listening to me. You're not connected to me. There is no wire. You're not sitting in front of me. Still, you're able to see me and hear me. And such complex technology has become a part of one's life. However, development and climate change are now sitting neck and neck. And there are two different aspects to this. So the first aspect is something that I personally experienced. This is something that, in fact, I have changed my views on from when I was younger to now. People who advocate very simple lifestyle, citing climate change, but who are not averse to cars, who are not averse to ACs, who are not averse to cell phones, using of technology. Is this good or bad? Should we live with this? Okay, as I said, I used to be very angry when I was young. I have become more, I don't know, older, maybe more understanding. I don't know which one it is as I grow older. I understand that, certain compulsions are there with people. They need, certain needs are there, and we cannot always, live a lifestyle where we can actually eschew all these. Sometimes it becomes a necessity. So that is one aspect of modern technology. However, there is another use of complex technology, and that is to oppose science and technology. I think that today, in today's world, especially with social media, the spread of fake information, and one example I will give is what causes COVID and vaccination against COVID. And you can see in Tamil Nadu, the statistics are not even 40% of eligible people in Tamil Nadu are vaccinated. And this is because of a lot of misinformation, a lot of fear, and a lack of trust. I think this is very important. Okay, so this is where there are no easy answers. As I said, for example, the complex technology, which is simpler to understand in the first aspect that I talked about, the Zoom meeting. You have an e-meeting, which makes so many things possible, and you can say that, okay, I don't drive a petrol guzzling car, but I have an electric vehicle. But an electric vehicle is also made of metal, and the pollution is just moved elsewhere. I mean, it is a metal and piece, and it has to be constructed somewhere, and it uses up natural resources. But these are things that are very, I would say, clear cut in the questions they pose, and the decisions that you make can be written in by balancing your needs against what you feel are the impacts of that choice that you make. However, the second object, this fake information, fake news, how to deal with this, and how your voice is lost amidst, I don't know how people have so much time and energy to just spread so much fake information and what they get out of it, but this is something that is actually extremely bothersome in the world today. And I think that this is something that I think even Tamil Nadu Science Forum, we have discussed it a lot. We have a lot of problem in actually engaging people on these matters. And the main reason is that the science itself has become so complex. So we are not able to tell what is real. When a child grows up in today's society and sees that, you don't need to pick up a phone with a wire, you can actually have a phone which is not connected to anything that you can see, and you still talk to your family, which is, some thousands, or, your grandmother who's 1,000 kilometers away, then it looks as though science makes, or technology makes, everything possible. So how is it that you can say that something is not possible, something is completely fake? Science does not allow such a thing to happen to people who may not be very highly educated where science is concerned. In fact, even to people who have studied science, some of these things become extremely complex issues to decide. Whether or not something is good or bad, whether or not something is possible, is not something that is easy. For example, as I said about the electric vehicle, how do you decide whether actually it pollutes more or less? How do do you just go with the flow? Do you just accept what people tell you that, oh, this is better than that? How is it, how would you actually deal with this kind of thing? Okay. So as I said, there are no easy answers. Today's world is a very complex world, and we have to be aware of that. And as I said, even though there are no easy answers, and how to raise such technical issues in a group which is trying to do science popularization is a very, very big question that is facing, I think, people who are interested in science popularization today. But some things have very easy answers. And that example I want to give is this new trend of astrology teaching in universities and colleges. I'm surprised in a place like Tamil Nadu, where there is so much talk about being rational. There are many, many colleges and universities offering astrology as a course. And then you can ask, how does it harm you to actually learn astrology, right? I mean, you learn about the Thomson plum pudding model of the nucleus or the atom, and then you know that it's wrong, but you teach it anyway. You can teach something as history, right? And it's wrong, but you teach it anyway. So what's wrong in teaching astrology? I think the difference is that when you teach something and you learn it as history and it's wrong, versus you teach something which can be used to cause harm, it's a no-brainer, right? You don't want to do it, and that this thing is superstition, kind of the impact of astrology, astrological predictions on common people can cause terrible harm, terrible damage. This is not something that you want to do. So certain things have very easy answers. Well, unfortunately, those certain things are very small in number. But in this context, I think it's very important. I always talk about this when I talk about science and how to popularize science. And this is the Gaussian distribution. As I said, I'm sorry, I have no idea what is the composition of this audience, but let me just give you an example. Suppose I have 100 people, I just randomly take from society. Okay, if you look at the central dark blue region, which is about 70%, it tells you that if on a given topic, general topic, 70% will generally have not much opinion on it. Okay, so 15% will be extremely for it, and 15% will be extremely against it. And this is the Gaussian distribution. So you can even match up the parts. For example, the light blue area is like 95%, and then the even lighter blue is 99%, and so on and so forth. So what does this actually mean? So it means that if you want to take some object, like for example, you want to talk about climate change, or you want to talk about astrology, most people don't have an opinion on it. That means 70% of the people have no opinion about it. Okay. Now, I assume that everybody who's interested in this lecture is against astrology, for example. Let us take that as an example. So we are all, let us say that we are against. So we are in this side. We are in this half of the, with people with very strong opinions, and of course those who have who are for it are on the other half of this uh, uh, Gaussian distribution. So now what happens is that these people who are sitting on the fence, who have no opinion, our role is to actually persuade them that something is good or bad. Okay, and you can see that this is really hard because the other side is also trying to persuade them that of the other way around. Okay, so if you are not able to persuade the central group, then you have 15% of people who think like you, and then you'll only get roughly half the remaining number. That means you'll only be able to ever have 50% opinion on something at a time. You will never be able to actually persuade people of the importance of changing their opinion on it. And this is what we are dealing with. See, I think that it's a waste to actually talk to these people. They are never going to change their minds. So, but 70% is a lot. We can actually try, and that is what I think the role of people from science movement should be, that the 70% who doesn't have an opinion must be persuaded or made to understand the importance of what it is that we are passionate about, and to come over to the other side, to our side, and to strengthen the way we look at things. So this is something that I feel is very important. People who work in science movements must understand statistics at this level, only so that we are efficient in trying to understand how we should go about doing this. Okay, now as I said, I had some piece of advice. This is women in the modern context, so I want to end with this. Especially, as I said, it's aimed at the young women in the audience who unfortunately I cannot see. One thing that I see since I was young to now is the kind of time and energy saving devices that we have in our kitchens today. When I was in BSc, I think coming back to the Gaussian distribution, 70% of my classmates probably just got married after BSc, and even if they had a job, it was a very desultory thing, and they were not really, motivated to go out and either make a career, or they were contented with home life, and that was fine in those days. But today it doesn't take you that much time to do your housework. It's not very difficult to clean your vessels. It's because you have nuclear families. There are many energy-saving devices, grinding machines, and various things. And what happens is that a woman of 20, 25 or 26 who has a child at that time, completely engaged in bringing up the child while the husband goes out to work, and in another 20 years, the child has left home for higher studies or for a job, and she's hardly 45, and that's it. I mean, she has nothing to do. Housework hardly involves any time. Whatever she has learned was 20 years ago, and she's forgotten it all. And studies on psychological problems among these middle class women show that 40% of middle class women today suffer from some kind of depression at this this midlife crisis, as they call it. It's not even acknowledged, because that psychological problems in India are rather hushed up rather than talked about. But this is something that is extremely impactful, and the woman doesn't understand also what she is going through. And I think this is one reason why it's so important that all women now today, you don't think of studies as a way to just get a degree, but it's something where you must have a career. I'm not talking about making money. You can have a career which does not involve making money, though it's hard to do that in the real world. But I think that something to engage your time, something in which you contribute in some way to society, which is not just homemaking. And because homemaking is today ephemeral, your small family, your small 1 or 2 children, when they leave house, it becomes extremely difficult for the women to readjust to the world. So this is something that I find among many of my in my family circle, among my friends, and this is something that I really want to tell you, that why you should have a career is you have the independence, you have the strength, you have the courage to do things on your own, and you can also then find yourself engaged throughout your life in some meaningful activity. So this is something that I wanted to highlight. I want to say one last word about talking about the International Scientific Temper Day. As the Article 51A of the Indian Constitution says, it shall be the duty of every citizen to develop scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. And I find this incredible because there's scientific temper and humanism in the same sentence. I think that, scientific temper with compassion, with the human touch, is something that I think we should highlight. Somewhere scientists, I am a scientist in our ivory towers, we have lost that contact with the common people, the humanism that we can bring to progress in science and technology is something that we should never lose sight of. Okay, we can make an atom bomb, but should we make it? Isn't it against all norms of decency and humanity? So this sentence, scientific temper with humanism and the spirit of inquiry and reform, this is something that all scientists understand. When you suggest something, a new theory, and it's wrong, you have to change it. You have to acknowledge that and then move on. So this reform is something very important, and you can only reform when you have a spirit of inquiry. You must ask. This asking questions and reforming by being guided by the answer to that inquiry is something that I think this package deal of scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform that Article 51A says it is the duty of every citizen. So all I can say is so beautifully said. All I can say is let us become dutiful citizens. Thank you very much.
Hello. I think Vani ma'am has issued the mic. Or,
Okay. Okay.
can you,
I was one.
ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I was actually not part of the meeting. Okay. Yeah, I think she's not there in the meeting.
She's there
No,
now.
she's there.
She's there. She's there.
Okay.
Yeah. I think she's mute now. You have to, ma'am. You have to unmute actually.
Right.
Hello, Vani ma'am. Are you able to hear us? You have to unmute. You are in mute now.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Now you are audible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Indumati. Shall we go on to the next speaker?
Yes.
Dr. Manisha Madam, welcome. We are eager to hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, please.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Special thanks to Neenu, who has called me here, Bangalore Science Collective through, and she has asked me to talk on this topic, women and science. And since last 32 years, we as Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti are doing social activities and things which are hampering the development of an individual, like superstitions, for eradication of superstition, spreading of scientific temperament, and then spreading the words of our social reformers in the society. That type of work we are doing. Actually, I'm not an academician. I'm a social worker, and as it's my uh, profession, I am an advocate. So I would not go into the details of scientific methods and all, but I would like to speak with all of you regarding. I would like to speak with all of you regarding the work which Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti since last 32 years is doing in Maharashtra, and due to the work of Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti and under the leadership of late Dr. Narendra Dabholkar, on which we, on the day of his assassination, we are celebrating, or we are trying to inculcate scientific temperament in human beings, which is the very basic thing. Actually, you have to be very cautious, and you have to know what is scientific temperament and what we have to do to eradicate all these things. So one thing we have to understand here is that Indumati ma'am has talked in detail to us regarding science and what are the lacunas and what we need to do in the society. For me, is a systematically organized body of knowledge on a particular subject is a science. So when we are talking about science and women, we have to take into consideration the uh, inequality of women in the society, because many women, even as on today, are not allowed to take education. They are tried to be killed in the womb itself. They are not allowed to take birth also. And in such a situation, we have to understand the dilemma which a woman has to undergo whenever she steps out for education or for her career or for any social activities what she wants to do. She has lot of opposition and objections from her society, from her family, and therefore she, many times it happens that she is not allowed to take decisions on her own. Now we can, as a member of Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti, I would like to state that there are so many superstitions, and so women are the carriers of superstitions actually, because since ages they have been uneducated, they have been kept illiterate, and therefore women's are carriers of superstition, we can say. And therefore, as rightly said by Indumati ma'am, I can speak on superstition because since last 32 years, my organization is doing work on this. And I myself, since last 20 to 25 years, I am attached with this organization. And therefore, I can say that we can see so many things happening around women, because once it is considered that women cannot take their decisions on their own, because um, we know the pattern of our society. We know the how our society works, because male inheritance, patriarchy are predominant in the society, and therefore the role of women is secondary, or maybe her role is neglected. And therefore there are so many things which are which are around women's superstition. And as a whole, the society is totally, because when we see that since birth, if a child takes birth in a house, in a family in India, we see that there are so many rituals. There are so many rituals around the birth. After the birth, rituals starts, kundali is made, horoscope is prepared for that child, and then his whatever his fortune is there, it is decided through that horoscope. And in this manner, the superstitions are stuck, are imbibed on the child's mind, on the family, in the family. And then superstition automatically, it takes a spin, and the child grows through all these things. And therefore many times it so happens that it's very difficult to remove from the mindset of a person that you should not follow superstitions, you should avoid them, you should think rationally, you should think radically, and you should use your own thinking, free thinking. So that becomes very difficult for us, because we do our work on the ground level, and through we can see, I will just give some examples of superstitions which are prevailing in the society, and which are mostly attached, and we can say that superstition is a false idea of certain practice of religion attached with too much fear and confidence. So when a person follows a superstition, he thinks that if I renounce this, if I leave this, something bad will happen to me, and therefore he is very reluctant to come out of that. And therefore we can see that there are so many types of superstitions, like witch hunting is still prevalent in India. In many parts witch hunting is there, where abuse and exploitation of women is predominantly done. Then we can see that Devdasi Pratha is still there in many parts of India. And uh, in this Devdasi Pratha, we can see that a girl is dedicated to the worship and service of a deity or temple for the rest of her life. And during this period, she is sexually exploited. So that also is predominant. That is still prevailing, because many times we are telling the people, we are on the ground, we are going to the people and telling that this is not the proper way to leave a girl, to dedicate a girl to the temple or a deity. Still it exists in the society. So there is lot of work, there is lot of we have to work a lot in this field. And then we can see that there are menstrual cycle and periods also. There are so many superstitions attached with that. We have seen that for 4 days, 5 days, women are kept aside, and then they are not allowed to involve in any rituals, any religious things. And in this manner, it has been an impact on the society, that a woman who is having periods or menstrual cycles, she is not good. She is not good for some auspicious occasions, and therefore she is avoided over there. Then many a times we can see that still in India we find that um, incarnation of God, or we can say it in Hindi, I would put it, or I can even put it in Marathi, that अंगात येणे किंवा किसी भगवान का भगवान इंसान के अंदर आके कुछ चीजें होती है. So that happens when incarnation of God in a woman or a man comes. So in that time also we can see that most of the women do this, because during this period they are considered to be very like they have some supernatural power, and then her words are very important during that time. Whatever she speaks is done by the family members or the people around her, surrounding her, and therefore these things are done by women. And many a times it becomes that it's a mild mental health problem which we have to consider and understand, and we need to give her or that person a proper medical treatment so that she can come out of that. And we need to inculcate in her the scientific ways or the things which are not supernatural. We have to tell her or tell that person that there are no supernatural powers, and that is the way we have to work in them. We have to consider all these things. Then health related superstitions are also there. There are so many health related superstitions. And then we have seen, as an organization, we know that we have seen so many superstitions prevailing, such as child sacrifices are still there, because recently 2-3 days ago a child was sacrificed. 2-3, I think, yeah, last week only, near Kolhapur, one child was sacrificed, because the couple since last many days, last few years after their marriage, they did not have any child, and therefore a child sacrifice was given by them, and through guidance or directions given by some conman or baba or some like person. So these things are happening in the society which need to be curbed, and we have to actually tell the people that you have to go to doctors, take proper medical treatment so that you can have a child. And if you are not going to have a child, the doctor will tell you with the after your reports that if you are eligible to have a child, they will tell you the way of treatment. And if you are not going to have a child, they will tell that why you are not going to have a child. So the people should first, they should have the conscience, and they should think that we should ask the reason, and the reasoning and asking is not done, and there's no satisfactory answer is given. Actually, when satisfactory answers are given, many people renounce all these things, but still we find that no satisfactory answers are given, and therefore all these things are prevalent in the society. And actually, we need to understand Indian Constitution also we need to understand, and Indian Constitution's preamble also we need to understand. Uh, in Indian Constitution preamble, we have equality of status and opportunity, um, and to promote among them all. Like equality of opportunity and status is given, and do we find equality given to women in the society? Because many times it so happens that due to the secondary position or the neglect by the society towards women's problems, such problems and such issues are there, prevalent in the prevalent in women's, and therefore we need to understand all these things. Secondly, Indumati ma'am just now said that as per Indian Constitution, Article 51AH, to develop scientific temper and humanism and spirit of inquiry and reform. So spirit of inquiry and reform also we need to, because spirit of inquiry promotes among ourselves scientific temperament, and then whenever we understand the things properly, we can have a reform on that topic. And secondly, it's the duty of every citizen of India as per Article 51A E to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. So we have to renounce all the practices which are derogatory to the dignity of women. And during this time also, we have to understand that what are the practices, what are the things which a woman does not get, or as her human rights. Actually, it is a human right to lead a life with dignity. So are we giving dignity to the women in the society? This is the question. And many of our reformers in Maharashtra, Karnataka, all over India have spoken on this topic of gender equality. So gender equality, actually gender dominated or gender equality has to be inculcated in men also, because in men also they should have the um, uh, proper understanding about the gender problems, gender issues, and gender related things. So we need to understand why gender equality and gender conscience is necessary. Even Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar also has told that his quote is that I measure the progress of a community by the degree of progress women have achieved. So Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar also spoke on this, that progress of the community is dependent on the, if 50%, like we consider that 50% of the society is of women. So if 50% of the society is uneducated, illiterate, superstitious, and she doesn't have scientific temperament, she does not have actually the way to view towards a thing. So when she is not having all these things, how can the society develop with such a differentiation, inequality? So we need to have the equality, and many things are there. In our Indian culture, we find that Indian culture, Indian religion, Indian Indian rituals, what we find that all these rituals, all these pujas and all these things are to be done by women. many of the fasts also have to be done by women. So in these things, she has been uh, since last many years, she's doing all these things. And one thing we can see here, that who is a good woman? If we ask some person that who is a good woman, or what is the criteria to consider a woman as a good, so a criteria of what a society expects is that she should be educated, she should be beautiful, she should cook properly, she should earn properly. If she is educated, she has to do her career, she has to earn properly, then she has to look after all the family members properly, and she has to follow all the rituals, what are all the religious things, what are uh, actually what are attached with the society, like in which community, in which religion she has taken birth, she has to follow all the religious things and everything. When she's doing all these things, she is considered to be a good woman. But then we have to understand here that because she is not getting proper time, or she is not getting that much of time to ask question, why I should do this, why I should not do this. A proper question and a proper reasoning should be there. And if she gives reasons for herself, or she tries to find reasons for that, that why, if I don't do these things, what will happen to me, and if I do these things, what will happen, and what I'm going to achieve, all these things she should try to understand. And if she does try to understand all these things, many a times it so happens that she's not allowed to follow whatever she thinks proper. Many a times it so happens that she is compelled to do all those things. So this compulsion, this compulsory things, actually the society should not like it. It's mostly the family members. The family members are pressurizing her to do all those things, and therefore many a times she has to do it, even if she does not like, even if she is not interested in doing all these things, but she has to do it. So there are I'll give a few examples. Like I would like to tell that one of my friends, she is in US, she is highly educated, but she is having some problem. She is having some problem related to her property in India. So what she has done, she has called her parents, she has told her parents that just look into my property matters, and unless and until they are solved, she has kept the Ganesh idol in USA. She has kept the Ganesh idol immersed in water. And she has told her parents that unless and until my property issues are solved in India, I'll not remove the Ganesh idol from water. See, what we can predict from this is that even if the lady is highly educated, even if she is educated, scientific temperament and reasoning is not inculcated in her, and therefore she is under the garb of all these superstitious beliefs. Actually, nothing can happen. We can understand that if an idol is kept in water, nothing is going to happen. You have to go to the lawyer, you have to go to the court, or you have to sit and amicably settle the matter, whatever it is regarding the dispute. But these things are still happening. We cannot say that education at par has inculcated scientific temperament in everyone. So along with education, we need to inculcate scientific temperament in everyone. Like it is the need of time. Even one of my friend, I would like to tell you that one of my friend is a devotee of some Baba, and she has a big frame of that Baba in her house. And during this time, like rainy season, humidity is there, and due to humidity in that frame, inside that on the Baba's forehead, there were some droplets of water. And then she came to me and she was telling that as Khub Motha, today there was a miracle in my house. Today there was a miracle in my house. My Baba was sweating a lot. So I told her that your Baba was not sweating. It is due to humidity. The water has accumulated on the forehead of that person. So on that photo. So you try to understand this, because people without trying to understand this, they blindly believe in the miracles, supernatural powers, and they are staunch believers of this, and they're not trying to understand. Even if we try to inculcate in them, we try to tell them the reality, the science behind it, they are not trying to understand. Because our activists, many a times, they do some miracles which are done by babas, and that, and after that they try to evaluate and tell it in simple language, in a sign, if there is hat chalaki, if there is anything hidden things done by that person, that we try to tell them. If they are using any chemicals, we are trying to tell them that this chemical is used, so this color has changed to this color. And then if they are not using some other tricks, so we try to tell the people that these tricks are used, and therefore that baba does not have any supernatural power, he does not have any superior power. So you have to believe this. And these people exploit women a lot, because many a times we see that women are sexually exploited by such babas and such godmen. And therefore we have to try, we should try to understand that if the person, if the baba is saying that he is having supernatural power, he actually under the garb of that, behind his power, he is taking undue advantage of the women's, and he's trying to exploit them, and this has to be stopped. And since last many years we have seen that, last I think 5 to 6 years ago we have seen that a baba was arrested and he's still in jail. And so we must try to understand that there is no miracle, and no supernatural power exists. Whatever it is, we can understand all these things by applying science to it. So we should know how to apply science in our day-to-day life, how to be scientifically aware, how to use our scientific temperament. And so there are so many things that there are so many examples which we people have day to day. And then reasoning, rational thinking are not acceptable, are not easily acceptable by women. So rational thinking and reasoning should be made so common, and it should be inculcated, and it should be we should reach to most of the people. Because if we reach to most of the people and we try to tell them, and it should be a part of our education also. Because I think that we, during our education, during our childhood, when we were in school, that time we started questioning our grandmother, that no mama, this is not proper, no grandma, this is not proper, actually this should be like this. And this type of inquiry, like we should try to understand, and we should try to question all these things. We should not blindly follow all these things. If you are blindly following for so many coming years also, you are not going to come out of the superstitions. Even during marriage, horoscope matching is done. 36 to 36 points should be matched. Like horoscope matching, people who have married, after the match, horoscope is matched, there is a grand marriage. And in the marriage also, dowry is in Indian marriages, dowry is mostly demanded from the in-laws, and the father of daughter's father, he has to fulfill that dowry part. And then after that only the marriage is solemnized. And after matching of 36 points also, there are so many divorces. Because if there is conflicts, if there are some disputes, if there is domestic violence, if she's being subjected to cruelty, and many things are there, many domestic issues are there. And after that, if they cannot live together, they decide to become separate, and they take divorce from the court. So we cannot say that horoscope matching and kundali jama ke kundali मिलाने के बाद शादियां टूट नहीं सकती है. Because that is, we have to understand this horoscope matching is not proper. Because just now Indumati ma'am just told that astrology should be understood, and we all here are opposing astrology. So all these things are to be understood and tried to be there are so many things which as Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti we do in the society, like for inculcating scientific temper in the people. We try to uh, tell the people that all humans are equal, and therefore intercaste, interreligious, interfaith marriages are promoted, are we try to make counseling, and then we try to tell the parents of both the intercaste and interfaith marriages. We try to communicate with them properly, and then we have 500 to 600 marriages through our organization we have done. And there are many superstitions are there, like godman will say that we will do such rituals, and then there will be a rain of money. People believe in this, people go to that person, and 2 days ago, 3 days ago only, in paper a such man was caught, and even today there is a person who has been caught by the police. And the Black Magic Act, which Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti made efforts for 18 to 20 years during when Dr. Dabulkar was alive. That time we gave a big fight for this. And after that, after the cruel assassination of Dr. Dabulkar, the Maharashtra government enacted the Black Magic Act in Maharashtra, and after that in Karnataka, and 2-3 states in India. But all over India, we need such a central act for curbing all the superstitious acts and all such things which are harmful for the progress and development of the society as a whole. And the second act which was enacted due to our work was social Samajik Bahishkar Virodhi Kaida, which is called the law against caste panchayats. The caste panchayats which are doing parallel judiciary, they are carrying out parallel judiciary. They are penalizing people who are not following the society's norms, and that is not proper, because we have a judicial system established through our constitution, through our government, and therefore such working of caste panchayats is illegal. That enactment in 2017 we had in Maharashtra, and we also expect that central government should pass an enactment for the whole of India. So there are so many works we are doing. Even in Uganda, recently in Uganda, there was a law against child sacrifice and black magic. So for that also we had given notes through our organization. Like, we are doing so many things, and many people are internationally recognizing our work. So as an activist, I have to talk so many things about the cases which we have personally handled, and we have been assisting the victims to the police stations, to the courts, and more than 500 to 600 governments have been arrested as per that act, and more than 100 cases of caste panchayats have been filed in Maharashtra. So there are so many things we are doing, we have done in Maharashtra. So many things. There is a list of things which we are doing throughout the year, and we need to keep on doing this, because scientific temperament, inculcation of scientific temperament in the society as a whole is very, very important. Rational thinking, radical thinking is important, and therefore all these things for the betterment of the society in which we live, we are doing these things. And we are very sad that 8 years ago, Dr. Dabulkar was assassinated in Maharashtra. After that, Comrade Govind Pansare was assassinated in Maharashtra. And after these two incidents, if the police, if the CBI had done proper investigation, the next two murders in Karnataka, Dr. M.M. Kalburgi and Gauri Lankesh murder wouldn't have happened, but that were also done by these people. So we are very sad that investigation is not done, and the culprits are still moving freely outside. and we need to understand why such things are happening in the society, because we are talking about free thinking and we are talking about rational and radical thinking, and that those people, the a sect is there in a society which don't like all these things, and they are trying to stop our work. So but as we have seen in India that there are so many rational, radical and social reformers whose works are still of importance, like in like we can see in Karnataka, Basvanna also has done so many good things in 12th century, which still people try to understand it and try to like follow those things even as on today. So that is important. We have to understand all these things. And thank you so much, Ninu, for calling me here, and Vani ma'am, Indumati ma'am, to uh, be with you. Thank you so much. And there are so many things we can talk also. And one more thing I would lastly say that Indian Constitution and its preamble has to be promoted in the society. Thank you. Thank you for calling me.
Thank you, Manisha madam. It's been a fantastic talk. Now, I will just open the session for the question and answers. And if anyone has questions for either of the speakers, please speak up. Any questions? Fine. I have a question. First for Dr. Indumati. We hear a lot for women who are in profession about this glass ceiling. What can you tell about that, madam?
Yes, the glass ceiling is very much there. As I mentioned, okay, this is uh, basically that women, although are respected, promoted, but do not reach the heights that men usually achieve. As I said, if you look at the number of directors of research institutions, IITs, vice chancellorships, very few women have actually attained these positions. So this is a kind of a glass ceiling. It's not as though the women are not allowed. You know, it's not like whatever fatwa from the Taliban saying you cannot reach that, but it doesn't happen. So I think that is very much there. I think also, see, there is a little difficulty. If you will allow me to add one sentence on this. I see increasingly as I get older, there is a lot of awareness about this gender inequality, social inequality, different kinds of inequality, and people are trying to make a difference. But it should not be a token change. Like, for example, nowadays, many conferences that I go to, if there is a panel discussion, I see that there is always a token woman in that panel. Okay, and in fact, I was recently in a conference where every panel had a token woman, and there was a discussion on gender issues, which had two women and one man instead. You know, that's also equally token. So when there are, when there is a token representation of certain minorities, whether it is women or religion or caste or whatever the issue may be, that is not going to actually advance the situation. I think it needs, it's a very good step. I applaud people for being more sensitive, for understanding that there is an issue. But I think we should also go beyond this. And that will mean, as Vani ma'am was asking about, to break this glass ceiling. Then it should become the norm. We should not, it's very peculiar that in India you have female prime ministers, but in simple positions of power, you do not see the representation of women. It's not that women are not capable. I understand also that women have many more social pressures, but it cannot mean that they are simply not going to be considered. And that is the glass ceiling that we need to break.
Thank you. My next question is to Manisha madam. We all hear about the subjugation women are subjected to, and they have been ill-treated, and they have been kind of segregated in many, many fields. In my opinion, the root cause of many of these problems is the economic status. If women have this economic power, Do you think it will still happen? Manisha madam?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can hear you. I'll answer you because here are double. I can say that I have two experiences as a social activist and as a lawyer. So even if economically a woman is she's strong or she's achieving something or she's getting salary, many a times it so happens that men in that family, her husband, he wants the details of everything and he wants all her salaries in his account, or he wants many a times, not everyone, I'm not telling about everyone, but in many cases it happens. And her ATM cards, her bank accounts, her everything, her details, financial details, he should know. And if she does not disclose all these details, then he says that and she's not given freedom to give her money to someone who is needy. And it is due to male dominance, and this has to be stopped economically, financially. If she is capable, then she should be given that much freedom to utilize her finance, her money, for what she thinks to be proper and for what she needs. And it should not be regulated by the male member of the family. So that also we need to inculcate in the society, that when she's financially freedom, she has a financial freedom, she has to be given her own freedom, she has to utilize it on her own wish.
Thank you, ma'am. I welcome any more questions from the audience.
Good evening, ma'am. Hello, am I audible, ma'am? Hello.
Yes, you are
Yes.
I have given the question in the chat box. Two questions I have given there. One question, Dr. Indumoti ma'am already given her answer. And the next is for Manisha ma'am. In chat box, I have written one question for you. Please let us know how many states in India
Sir.
Anti-Black Magic Act has been passed through.
Actually, in Assam, Orissa, Karnataka, and Maharashtra, four we know. We know that in Orissa also there is a small act like that. In Assam also there is an act, and in Karnataka and Maharashtra. And in other states like Kolkata and some few other states, they are trying to get it from their state governments. But as Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti, we are requesting the central government. We have given some request letters to the central government that centrally such act should be there. If a central law is there, it can be it can cover all the parts of Indian territory. So that is important. So we are still in that mode that central government should accept our demand.
Yes, ma'am. I am agreed. I am from PVVM, Paschim Banga Bigan Manch. We have launched in support of your demand. It is our wholehearted demand. We launched our program yesterday throughout the states.
Okay.
Thank you,
Sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Okay, welcome.
Any more questions? Any more questions in the audience? Fine. If there are no more questions, let me just summarize
Of this, can you?
we have learned. Yeah. Okay. If there are no more questions, let me summarize what we have learned from the speakers and add to that all the audience opinion if you have any. Fine. We started off the talk with Dr. Indumati, who spoke with the Arivudi Iyakkam program of the Tamil Nadu Science Forum, which started in 1980. This is an adult education program which teaches women lots of techniques, lots of other things, including child education. They are even bringing out a magazine for child education. Then she turned to the status of women in science, and she said, there are just two divisions, either you're aggressive or you're docile. It all depends on exactly what you have achieved. And also, in at least in India, maybe in the whole of the world, there is a difference between a profession and the societal and familial pressures. We have to face all those pressures and still come out of it. Like in one case, she showed us a Gaussian curve where she had told us that the idea is to convince about the science popularization to the people who have not committed to any side. And it's a fight actually between the rational thinking and the superstition. She even pointed out about astrology being a subject in many of the universities. And the technology is very complex, and even there the differentiation occurs. Like she had told, in vaccination, for every 100 men who are vaccinated, you find that only about 85 women are getting vaccinated, which is a tough problem, but okay, one has to work for it. Like I might add here, India's scientist population is between 3 and 3.5 lakhs. Of that, only 14% of it are women scientists, which is about 40,000 and all. And the entire world, the record is about 28%, nothing to be very proud about. And she has already told us about the glass ceiling that exists, which you cannot see, but it's very, very difficult to break through it. Later, Manisha Madam spoke. She belongs to the Maharashtra Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti. She had told us, okay, popularization of science and anti-superstition are two of their main goals. And women face a lot of inequality. There are many, many reasons. And in the process, her health is also affected. At least I know in Karnataka villages, the leading problems are anemia and depression. These are the problems that women face. And a woman is supposed to know everything, be educated, hold a profession, bring in money, take care of everyone in the family, take care of our children, children's education and cooking and the whole lot. So in short, a woman is a person to whom no dignity is given, but she is expected to be a superwoman. Now these are the problems in India, like for any person who wants to do science or any other profession, including a legal profession. Okay. With this, shall we conclude the meeting? Madam Neenu, what do you feel?
Yeah. Thank you very much again. It was very nice being here, listening to Manisha ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, we can conclude now. So, from Bangalore Science Collective, I would like to thank Dr. Vani for moderating this session, and also Dr. Indumati and Madam Manisha Mahajan, spending time with us and talking about most important insights of women in science, and the problems that our society facing, and how we can do our part of it to overcome all these aspects. So it was really good, and I would like to thank everyone who joined this session and asked questions and listened to this wonderful session. Thank you all, and I just wanted to tell you tomorrow also we have another session on workers and science, and we have eminent trade unionist and science worker, science activist Dr. Vivek Montero talking on workers and science, and we also have trade unionist K.N. Umesh, and which will be again moderated by All India People Science Network National President Dr. Sabyasachi Chatterjee. So I request all of you to stay with us and join tomorrow also during this session. And thank you all once again for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.